From Skinner Park, you'll be dropped. Calypsonian could have sing what they want. We were the spokesman for the people. Eric Duffy, Chambers Duncy. When Kamala drunk, how she liked to pee. Calypsonian know that's no way to go. Too much happening in we country. All this killing spree, young woman bodies, but only about PNM you could sing. All them songs playing on the radio, all you singing we Kamala do. But when PNM do a wrong thing, I hear in a word from you. I want to ring me bell, wake up Mother Castell. Every Monday she preach on WAC radio, and is the biggest critic of Calypso. Ring me bell for Patsy and Joni. I want them two cultural lovers to know, not only PNM song is Calypso. I ring my bell, ring my bell. I ring my bell down there. I ring my bell, ring my bell. I ring my bell down there. Crime will never stop in this country once black people belly empty. How could a man walk in CPEP, maintain his whole family? All you say the past regime was so bad, so much wrong thing they done to we. Now that PNM take over, white poor people going hungry. When PNM win, all African grin. Now we get back we country. All they doing is complaining and ain't doing nothing for we. The mess already made, don't set off your ass and do it fast and find a way to solve them. I want to ring my bell, wake up Randolph Burrows. Tell him among all past police commissioners, up to now is he I prefer. Ring my bell, wake up the Lord Bryna. Tell him the state of Calypso today is a good thing he passed away.
What is democracy? What is human rights? And to whom is it directed? Suspend the Constitution, lawlessness out of hand. And under this Constitution, there could be no prosecution. It looks like this Constitution is not for the law-abiding man. Only criminals and crooks, to get them off of the hook. Good people must have no fun. They have to be on the run, ducking from bandits, bullets and guns. While they're making a mockery of democracy, violating the law with impunity, and some legal entity defends them with alacrity while they're making a mockery of democracy. International should be disbanded immediately, or charge them all as accomplice for every crime in every country. Cause it look like their only mission is to see the guilty go free, while the victim rights go to waste. Nobody to plead their case. How long would we stand and see democracy going crazy? Oh, how unjust justice is made to be. They're just making a mockery of democracy, violating the law with impunity, and some legal entity.
Too much of one thing, good for nothing. Too much of good thing, never enough. I don't know why my black people cannot see. No party never care about we. Every election we so devoted. How we love up the PNM. As soon as election come and go, is only problem after problem. How could we cope? Man lost I ain't seeing no solution. Every time PNM come in power, it takes a toll on black man. I don't want to sound like a racist, but this is what I can see. They just take care of the race, cause they damn well know they have we. I want to ring my bell, wake up Eric Williams, tell him the party found him, PNM needed immediate attention. Ring my bell, wake up Mother Cornhawk, tell she to cast a spell on we party, cause it's not what it used to be. I ring my bell, ring my bell, I ring my bell down there. I ring my bell, ring my bell, I ring my bell down there. This thing is becoming out of hand. It's time this damn nonsense stop. If you don't sing a PNM song, from Skinner Park you'll be dropped. Calypsonian could have sing what they want. We were the spokesman for the people. Eric Duffy, Chambers Duncy, when Kamala drunk how she like to pee. Calypsonian know that's no way to go. Too much happening in we country. All this killing spree, young woman bodies, but only about PNM you could sing. All them songs playing on the radio, all you singing we Kamala do. But when PNM do a wrong thing, I hear in a word from you. I want to ring me bell, wake up Mother Castell.
Is boss, the guilty rights stay in store, protected under due course of the law. UNC they making a mockery of democracy, violating the law with impunity, and them legal entity defends them with alacrity while they making a mockery of democracy.
Yes, indeed. A pleasant good night to all and sundry. Yes, this is, of course, the second night, the second day of 2024, and we are out of the stables. We are out of the box. So we are out of the marking point with vengeance, viciously, because it will be, of course, a long, hot 12 months in 2024. And what a better way to start, or is there a better way to start than, of course, being belligerent, being, of course, aggressive, being steadfast, being, of course, committed to the preservation of our democracy. And therefore, those who have infringed, those who have denied us, those who have a proclivity, a propensity to believe that somehow they can arrogate unto themselves and then, of course, institute a kleptocratic, non-democratic, autocratic administration, then they are hallucinating. Yes, indeed. Welcome. East, West, North, South, and Trinidad, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are streaming on the World Wide Web in the diaspora, a pleasant good night. And of course, salutations with respect, all best wishes for 2024, notwithstanding.
reason why the economy goes sprout when you're voting. Vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the passing laws that them alone can flout when you're voting. Vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the building eyesores, east, west, north and south, they say where you vote them in. Vote them out. Register and vote them out. Totally vote them out. State your finger and vote them out. Rescue the country. Vote them out. Vote them out with tempo. They have we in vain. Let's put our country together again. Vote them out with calypso.
Yes, indeed. Pleasant good night to all and sundry. This is, of course, the Corridor Transformation. Your host, Lennox Smith. Yes, we are back on even keel. And, of course, we are out of the box tonight because we want to make certain that the information is not only verifiable, is not only that the veracity of which cannot be questioned. And that is why, of course, we have, of course, our enemy, our arch enemy, our singular enemy. And, of course, all of us in unison, recognizing that is the existential threat to the existence and the development and the moving forward of Trinidad and Tobago is the Rowley administration, of course, under a criminal enterprise branded as the PNM. Yes, indeed. And therefore, we have a duty and responsibility to treat with these matters frontally. And of course, as I said, 2024 will be the year where we will invite international, we will invite regional, we will invite hemispheric, we will invite, of course, even of course, the CARICOM, in order, of course, to look at the plight of Trinidad and Tobago today, as we have a marooned bunch of individuals who, of course, have developed a lame duck administration, and of course, shame, I should say shame, but recalcitrant in terms of the decent thing to do, and that is to call an election. And we have seen from, of course, the decision of the Privy Council with respect, of course, to the local government elections that this administration postponed, and we would have had to have that election that we had on the 14th of August last year. We'd have had to have it somewhere in March or after Carnival going forward. But because of the tenacity and the commitment and the dedication and the public interest the loyal opposition has, and of course led by Kamala Persad-Bissessar, a true Democrat, all she says, no matter what the outcome, face the polls, face the people. But no, Rowley doesn't want to do that. The PNM doesn't want to do that. And that, of course, is now axiomatic, not idiosyncratic again, but axiomatic of the PNM, because it is now a given that they are afraid to face the people and the polls, but of course will engage in all kinds of shenanigans and deflection, and of course attempts to not only frustrate, not only, of course, undermine, and not only, of course, engage in anti-democratic conduct, including, of course, illegal conduct, in order, of course, to stay in office. Of course, it is considered to be an autocoup. Autocoup, of course, is one that says that a party getting into government, they then, of course, engage in all kinds of underhand and sleight of hand in order, of course, to stay in office unmeritoriously. Let me repeat, unmeritoriously. They have no business of being in government, but they will impose themselves on the people, hoping that somehow the people will be complacent and will not respond. But I say that they have not only burst on their average, but it is a monumental and a mortal miscalculation of the tenacity, the dedication, the commitment, and the unrelenting nature of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, both here and abroad, to preserve our democracy. That's all we say. And if you did nonsense, or the population says that the electorate in this particular case says that you have done nonsense, then they are going to vote appropriately. You cannot arrogate unto yourself that somehow you have a right to be there. Who bequeathed Trinidad and Tobago to you? Eric Williams? Well, he will have to answer, rather, that who gave Trinidad and Tobago to him? Because I know, as a Trinbagonian, and everybody else know, that a piece of Trinidad belongs to all of us, and Trinidad and Tobago belongs to all of us, and not, of course, one small group of people who have developed themselves, and of course, morphed themselves, and metamorphosized themselves into, of course, an oligarchic, kleptocratic, evil, wicked, especially in circumstances where they simply cannot perform, have not performed, but of course will give you all kinds of lyrics, which of course is cheap, while they go away with the ham, lamb, jam, the sink, the plate, the spoon, and every damn thing, if we allow them so to do. That being as it may, of course, I believe I did not do sufficient justice to the whole question of character. And the character here means the personalities that make up the government of Trinidad and Tobago today under the PNM, a criminal enterprise, no doubt. But of course, there are those who are still unconvinced. There are those who are inchoately convinced, meaning that they're halfway or they are partially convinced. Well, we need to convince them in totality. We need to make them understand that they are faced with the Hobson's choice to either get rid of the PNM or suffer the consequences of continued mismanagement, inability to manage the affairs of the country, and of course, faux pas after faux pas. That being as it may, in spite, of course, of the talk show hoax Sunday that, of course, will defend or try to defend the indefensible. And, of course, those who may be on this live, too, or who, of course, from time to time, suckers for punishment. They are beaten with the truth. They are beaten with the truth over and over. And like, of course, in that particular case, like typical slaves, they, of course, they believe that something else might pop up to save the PNM. Well, of course, I tell them we are going to continue to beat you and beat you and beat you with the truth. Continue to beat you, continue to flagellate your person with the truth. And only the truth will set everybody free, including those who have been flagellated. I'm talking about those sycophants and those recalcitrant individuals who are in a state of denial. Minuscule and modicum as they are and as they are being reduced, but nonetheless, in a strategic location, they can prove to be detrimental to this march forward to, of course, save and salvage our democracy. That being as it may, as I said, I don't believe that I did sufficient justice to the character and the nature of the Rowley assembled. He included in terms of their original intent. What has been, and we have been saying that their original intent was always to deceive, to, of course, malign, at the same time to deflect, and to, of course, mismanage, and to line their pockets. Line their pockets is the operating word, because that is the most chilling and disastrous outcome, because it means that, therefore, without resources, the country, of course, will morph or metamorphosize or significantly be reduced to a failed state and the so-called banana republic. Banana republic. But of course, thank God we have people like you and of course people like myself who are prepared, of course, to take their own resources and of course deal with the bull by the horn. And that is what this is all about. Of course, as I said, we have examined, of course, the originating intent of the PNM, and they have come up wanting, having regard to the, of course, the evidence. And of course, the evidence is that Rowley promised us, of course, a utopia. It turns out to be a dystopia and continues so to be. He promised, of course, the most efficacious management of the resources of the country. You see, I'm laughing because it has turned out to be a joke. They should be, of course, auditioning with, of course, Larry Joseph and Tommy Joseph at this point in time for some kind of carnival reprieve, some kind of carnival, of course, mental, what I consider to be mental salvation or mental settlement and of course mental as well to of course make people not focus on the disaster that is of course Trinidad and Tobago today, because that is what they have done, and we only have to examine what happened over the last 8 years to be not only convinced but to be irrefutably so. There can be no doubt that was always the intent, having regard, of course, to what we have unearthed in recent past, of course, with respect, of course, to the emails, with respect, of course, to Rishmi, the Rishmi affair, with respect, of course, to the so-called Section 34, with respect, of course, to the disaster that was the sea bridge, the acquisition of boats, the construction, or should I say the resumption of construction of the Brandlara Stadium, the resumption of construction, of course, very, what I consider to be deceptively, and of course, not what is expected, the resumption of the construction of the highway to Point Fortin. They only, of course, did that part of it and then give us some kind of hogwash that is based, of course, on deception, so much so that we now are facing the Treasury. We, the people, are now facing, of course, $1 billion and more to be paid back, of course, to the original contractor, the Brazil-based, of course, OAS contractors that Rowley and they, according, of course, to the arbitrator, frustrated and breached the contract. And now we are paying and have to pay the price. Of course, in spite of all of that, instead of Rowley and them get the hell out of office, having regard, of course, to the additional pain they have, of course, and the compounding of the insult to the population when, of course, they eviscerated and they disemboweled the procurement legislation in their own favor to, of course, prevent the procurement regulator and the commission from investigating deals that are from and of and pursued at the cabinet level. Oh, what a despicable situation. And then, of course, we see Dr. Rowley saying that the letter of the law says that it is standard practice that people recuse themselves or when they have a conflict of interest or potential or otherwise. And then we see that when we examine, it's over 500. That is a clear case, not only of a corrupt and a kleptocratic group of individuals, but also the one that does not respect moral and ethical standards. Because if Rowley was on the other side of the coin, you'd have heard him up and down the country, that hypocrite, that moral hypocrite, that situational ethics, convenience, miscreant. And therefore, we know clearly what has to be done. Of course, yes, indeed, people. So let's go straight, of course, to what we would continue, of course, to expose, and that is the personalities and the conduct and the character of these people. So you get a better understanding of their intent, and their original intent has always been to deceive and to steal. Let's go straight to the lines one time. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Lennox. How you doing, boy?
Well, of course, I'm back to even keel. You see that I am satisfied and I'm deeply convinced that the festivities are over and we must now, of course, be belligerent, we must be aggressive, we must be forceful, and we must, of course, make Rowley and them understand that they have been called out. They are well known. Their characteristics are certainly despicable, and that they should be contemplating getting out of office, because 2025 will certainly come. And when, of course, they will have to face all of the wrath thereafter in terms of criminal behavior and civil action as a consequence of their conduct in government. Go ahead, my friend.
Well, you're right, it's back to normal. I told you so in 2023 that whatever we've eaten out in 2023 at the end, we're going to greet it in 2024. And so say, so done.
Yes,
In
yes,
the
yes.
space of 2 days, it's about 5 or 6 murders already.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's
You
business as
did say that.
usual.
Yes, yes, yes.
Business as usual, Lennox. I told you if the religious organizations give up on this country, the country on autopilot, God not functioning here no more for them. When they could come out and say that how their prayer is not being answered, that is an indictment on this country. The country is going into lawless mode. You understand? It's a failed state far as I concerned well regarding this government. They have failed to protect the lives of the people of this country. They have failed to improve the lives of the people of this country. And the people will find out in due course,
Yes.
In due course, when the dreaded property tax and the light bill and water rate and all the other taxes that they impose on the people of this country come to fruition. They will bawl, they will cry, they will yell from the high sky, and still nobody will save them. Not even God will help them, because plenty of these individuals being put there with the blessings of the church, right? The church has blessed the congregation to put the government in power. And they have seen in the Bible, they say when the wicked rule over you, you struggle and you bawl and you cry. So when the righteous prevail and is leader in your country, you have a good and decent life. I want to ask people, because apparently people on I-95, when they was having a hearing calling segment, and they was asked if they had a good year, most of them were saying yes. So I want to know if those people are stranger to the truth, or just a segment of people that saw the way, because I ain't seen my way, and lots of people ain't seen their way. And it is going to come down to that, because I tell you, when those other taxes hit your back pocket, you're going to be feeling it at the end of the day, It's just a matter of time. The crime is only one portion of it, and it's going to continue to rise, because I do not see this incompetent times, Rowley administration doing anything to safeguard you, me, or the little dog by the corner of the road life. Nobody's safe here. Everybody is fair game. Everybody is uh, free to attack and in what do they call it? Um, invade the house or whatever, invade the life or whatever, and do criminal acts against them. So we do all fair game, right? No help from the government or the police at the mercy of criminals. How about good day,
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, thank you very much, of course, my friend, because we have another person. But of course, as I said, it has become, of course, normal to take calls even on my private phone as well, one of the private phones. So we have a caller on that line as well. Of course, pleasant good night to you. Welcome to the corridor. Of course, this is the second day of the year, and we are in what I consider to be automatic mode, meaning that we have to save our country and our democracy. Pleasant good night to you, and if I didn't before, all the best to you personally. Good night.
Good night, Lennox.
Yes.
You're Tunapuna here, brother.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Tanapuna. All the best to you and your family for this period, as we look anxiously towards, of course, the 2025.
Well, boy, Lennox, let me tell you something. It look bleak, eh? Let me fool myself, because you don't see how much borders and the way how it's going ahead and whatnot and thing, and they continue same normal style of governance and things, lie to the population and all this kind of thing. Lennox, I have one or two concerns that I want to raise.
Go ahead.
One is the sale of that methanol thing to Proman.
Yes.
And I am not hearing anything coming from the procurement regulator. You understand?
Yes.
Because this is sale of the asset of the country,
Yeah.
and which involves the procurement regulator. Because as I say, the last procurement regulator, Munilal Lalchan, sat on his backside, excuse my language. And
Well, you could use that kind of language here. That's all right, but you certainly cannot use it on the ground report for obvious
right.
reasons. Yes.
But and allow the state, Rowley and them to run roughshod and sell out our patrimony and state assets and whatnot.
Yes.
And they do nothing. They didn't renew his contract, and they put a next one Beverly Can.
Uh-huh.
Now we see we have a situation with this whole issue with the methanol holding and the selling out of our interest in it and whatnot. And I'm not hearing anything again from this new so-called procurement regulator. So you see what is happening is that and Lennox may identify it. I don't hesitate to say it as I see it. The last procurement regulator, here the name that I call it, Munilal Lalchan. This one is Beverly Khan. So understand the name, the title, and the people who I'm speaking about.
Yes.
And I want to let people know this has no race thing in it. This is people who the PNM select, who they put there, who could do the dirty work. In addition to that, Lennox, I also want to raise an issue.
Go ahead.
An article, Failing Grade on Crime. I don't know if you read that for the Page 14. And in all when they talk about the conviction rate,
the one on the mill, the normal failure
right.
indicators, yes.
Right. And what it said, thus, despite the Prime Minister's assurances, enters the new year with no sign that the rising homicide rate will be stemmed anytime from soon on. The trend will not be reversed unless all state actors get their various houses in order. If the leaders of the key justice institution, well, I'm giving you it here, the Police Service Commission, the Judiciary, the Office of the DPP, the Office of the Attorney General, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the National Security Minister. So you see right there, every one of them has fallen on the job, Lennox.
Yeah.
This is why the crime has reached this stage. But there is something I also want to raise, Lennox, and I hope that they take note of this. Is it this Ines Gate issue, where the Integrity Commission, and which is run, I think, if I can't remember, if it's some Ram Logan or something like that, or Ram Passad or something, the man in charge of the Integrity Commission. So understand the names that are calling. And he had cleared Rowley and them on this issue with the purchase of the house, and the value and whatnot, and filing the wrong declaration form, and under the value, and all these things. I am calling now that these matters ought to be reinvigorated. They must be brought back to the forefront. Because here why? Crime is not only the little black boy with the gun and thing and committing the crime on the street and all. This is white collar crime. And it involves high people in office, high people misbehavior in public office. Just as also we see that issue with the Neil and Massey thing there. Because I have all these clippings from the paper right in front of me, Eleanor. And when is the forex shortage and the problem with that? And we taking our foreign exchange to put it into some kind of zombie business thing, and and Massey and all of them. And let me tell you something. You check the two big players in that, Lennox. One is Jove Warner, and he was some big thing in some government institution, Lennox.
Yeah. I don't know if it's connected to the Warners. That is very familiar and associated with Dr. Rowley in his let's say private capacity as a businessman. We'd have to check that, but I suspect that there's an exception. Huh?
Not that Warner is the contractor fella, but Jove Warner and them.
Yeah. I'm saying that I don't know if it is relative having regard to the surname. That's what I'm making the connection. All right, go ahead.
But in addition to that, while I'm saying that too, these fellas now have joined with Massey, Jove Warner, and the other person is Robert Riley, the man who we had in charge of BPTT.
Yes.
And I was saying this from day one, that this man was on the, I had to say, not yet signed on to the project. So Lennox, what we need to do is maybe we were there by some means or the other under the Freedom of Information Act. Let me see if we could get a copy of that agreement. We get somebody from Shell and them to confirm whether they sign on to that. And let me hear what is where this thing lies.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And of course, we are very enlightened and very, of course, what I consider at minimum, you cannot fault the people for being interested in their affairs. And that is a healthy sign of a democracy. But of course, Heather Seal, for example, I don't want to be entrapped or in any way direct my mind to anything that I consider to be, should I say, pernicious, or there may not be anything one can, of course, invoke or invite inside of the appointments. Once the appointment is by the PNM and in questionable circumstance, it doesn't matter who they appoint. The fact is that it's always for some sinister motive. Because Heather, don't ask me to look at the surnames of anybody or their ethnicity, because Heather Seals, the head of the industrial court today, her name and of course who she is ethnically, it's clear. So I would prefer to say that once the people are appointed, whether it across the board, because we saw, of course, investigation to have taken place with respect, of course, to the acquisition of the boat that Rowley said was questionably acquired by the UNC, that he sent back summarily and then claiming that there was something untoward, and he put his friend, the owner of Kentucky, and of course something holdings, as the loan investigator. So it is across the board who they wish, of course, to put in the place in that position to pursue their nefarious conduct. It doesn't matter which ethnic group, whether it's a Chinese, because of course a short young father, for example, could be considered to be a Chinese, right? And but he is holding some serious portfolio and attempting, of course, to manage the so-called capital entity in the form of an investment business organized and promoted by Rowley and they. So I don't want to get involved in any extraneous issues. The fact of the matter is that once the PNM put them there and there are questions surrounding the appointment, it doesn't matter ethnicity, the person's surname, irregardless. The fact of the matter is that once it is questionable, then of course we know that the PNM must be held accountable, and that the only thing that could come out of it, of course, is evil intent, devilish intent, and of course mismanagement and the collapse, because these fellas turn out to be totally sour and cursed. So I don't want to get involved in ethnicity or anything like that. What I want to get involved in is that once the PNM invites that person in that particular office, whether it is that of the industrial court chair, or indeed the head of the integrity commission, or indeed the head of any institution that they would have appointed, and their questions, whether it be NASA Scope, who of course is the surname and the ethnic group that she belongs to, clearly it's clear, so that it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the veracity, the solidness, and the certification, and whether or not it is really to act in the best interest of Trinidad and Tobago. That is all we must be concerned with. Because when we go to international agencies, that is what they want to know, not the ethnicity of the people, but whether or not they are functionaries to, of course, misuse, abuse, and of course disregard the rules and regulations governing the delivery of services by that entity to which the PNM have appointed an individual or group of individuals. Let's go straight, of course, to the line. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
A pleasant good night to you, Mr. Lennox, and all the listeners in Trinidad and Tobago,
well,
and the World Wide Web who are listening in tonight. Condolences to our founding father of the United National Congress, ex-prime minister who served this country well. Condolences to his family, and the belief that only God, the Almighty Father, can console them in this time. They alone know the consoler is the Father that will comfort them. And that it is that we, the citizens, shall recognize. And on your discourse tonight, I would like to, sorry to disrupt you about the people that put in places. So I would like to say something on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because when we had put Mr. Basdev Pandey as our political leader and prime minister of this country, he showed us what you are talking about when Rowley put a public servant in an entity to serve is to get away with corruption and thief for themselves. But when Mr. Basdev Pandey was in power, he was a man from the people on the earth in the trenches, and he grew up in poverty, hardship, and he walked, he talked. And the first thing, when he became a politician, it was to serve the people, to take them out of poverty, which the PNM under Keith Rowley is doing the same thing today in modern times, blinding them with witchcraft, and the narrative are changing it to tell them that what they are doing is the best thing. They are still good, because look at the Somalia, how they're suffering, although get good roads still, the roads still good, thank God for that. He said, and Mr. Basil Pandey make sure he give people basic needs of education, employment. And when you're talking about economy and the micromanaging of the wealth to reach down to the poor person and the vulnerable, Mr. Pandey had introduced something called the nest egg, and which the PNM tried to downplay. And you will hear the narrative of the talk show hosts on the somewhere down on the street in Port Aspen on the Beatum in the Labas. They're talking that who give dollar for dollar and who do the best. All the trade schools that Mr. Pandey had put not everyone could be academic inclined, could read, write, and be professors. But we are an industrial nation. We have energy sectors, and we have construction sector. He put them to train them, certify them, so they could be better paid. The same LNG plant that Keith Rowley and Stuart Young them want to tea for their own self, with India and them, to have it for their own personal gain, is Mr. Pandey had set the trend to put that in action so that he could stimulate the economy to create jobs for the people when the oil price was $9 a barrel. And look at what he gave this country and the citizens. And yet still, where toilet paper is still cheaper than a newspaper, people rather use a newspaper. And when he give them the proper upliftment, they're talking about the middle class and the lower class and the vulnerable. When Mr. Pandey was serving, it had nothing like the vulnerable and the destitute, because he made sure those vulnerable who Rowley have as he pawns today, they were taken care of, because you know why? You could have gone to the grocery and still afford to buy $20 in groceries and buy your trend for 3 days. You could have still, if you're working, he was the first one, reduce taxes and start to send taxes backward to make we be a tax-free nation. Rowley and India come and do what? Today is the property tax. When he built schools, same in there say that's for drones and monkey. And you see now, they're so ashamed, and the narrative they are pushing is to tell people all what they have done and break the yoke of Eric William, witchcraft, and Mr. Basil Pandey had served this country. All the entities they put, as you say now, the people they put is to victimize and to bring false charges against the opponent, which is the United National Congress, who bring delivery to the people, because the PNM was never for the people. If you talk about the black vulnerable black man, which upliftment in 8 years Rowley had put for it to uplift for himself, why it is the upliftment haven't come after 8 years of high oil prices and energy gas? Because why? He don't care about you all. After from 1956 to now, you see the struggle, the fight is against the PNM. Labor always fighting. And then you will see who he really put in charge, so that he run away with corruption and get away with it. He put a president so he could get presidential pardon. He put a police authority that they will choose a commissioner. They have a commissioner, they are sitting down. And a commissioner office is an independent office where Erna Haywood Christopher is supposed to have their own strategy and come up. You telling me ethnic cleanses is not exposed in this country clearly now? You've seen how the East Indian diaspora is targeted by the PNM, because the whole of Central, look at it, you're telling me you cannot fight crime, you have no vehicle, you have no police response time, police can't come, why? Because of 4%? And you're talking about help the police solve crime, and then you see in Mr. Basil Pandey time, crime has gone to the lowest ever. And because you see about the drug trade, Sadiq Bash get cocaine and Mr. is the heater. So to tell you the underworld. And since the shipwright agreement with the United States, with the DA, to stop the transshipment of drugs through the Caribbean and Trinidad, look what they're doing. They mash up Mr. Pandey for that. Because just imagine now, we have the state-of-the-art Coast Guard boat under this Kamla Prasad Bisesa that could go right up on the shore with a small pirogue, and still intercept the perpetrators and them. You grow all about. So just imagine the kind of cocaine, guns, and other human trafficking. When you talk about the pedophile ring, it's not a gun dormant. You're talking about misconduct in public office, blatant. Look one. They take money out of Western and put it into a private entity. It failed. Who stand the bill? No TN telling us, and the brass face waterman telling me that that $5 billion who you want to pay. We had to pay a $5 billion debt to TN without proper regulators in TN to give accountability. Why didn't put in Parliament that the managers and CEOs are held accountable because these are people rich and they're paid money? No, because you know why? You have to pay or go back to the old flambeau and gather paper and light it in the night. And Mr. Lennox, the PNM people, as much as it will come this year, he will give them a little $10 and a little $5. And I want to ask you something, sir. If the minimum wage is $20.50, what is URP they work? How much you pay the people? Because what they pay, how much they pay in URP? You see? So the supporters satisfied with less than the minimum wage, but the private sector who employ people and try to make dollars and create jobs, you're squeezing them all the juice out of them. Have a nice night, and may God bless our belated Prime Minister for the M2 ring road and all the side roads and them he built so that Myro could be the prospering nation, a village, and have commerce today beside the energy sector. And we know Espinel, we know Robert Riley, and I could call out all the crooks of them, right? And then we have a central bank governor who is spotted up and saying everything is good and well, and while in there is in the parliament, right, telling everything is good and giving accountable for it. But you telling me today, 2 persons was killed, and the police have vehicle, and they have equipment, and $4 billion disappear. It's time the PNM entity, the brand, disappear from Trinidad and Tobago. Have a nice night.
Thank you very much, of course. And as that presentation was merely a confirmation of the level of not just enthusiasm, but the level of knowledge and inculcation and awareness of the callers who, of course, are sharing their knowledge with the rest of the community. And, of course, within there, just before, of course, he came on, I was talking about the fact that we cannot look at ethnicity, we cannot look at texture of hair, we cannot look at color of skin as far as those who would have been placed in various positions. What we have to look at is that if the position is mired or has attracted controversy, then of course we know that it doesn't matter who is there, what ethnic group. The fact of the matter is that the PNM put them there, and therefore it is always to, of course, affect negatively the delivery to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Let's go straight, of course, to the other call. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome.
Yes, hello, good night. Lennox Smith.
Good night.
That contribution there from Mr. Faizabad was, it was great.
Yeah, comprehensive, yes.
Yes, and I wonder if people just listen to this man at all. But what I am saying is, all what he said there, people just relax. We don't have a democracy. We don't have no rights, and people relax. We supposed to get help from the OAS. I've been saying that for many months now. I believe it's more than a year I've been preaching that. And now, right, We now looking to reach out for international help. International help is not out in the outer world. It's right here in the region. The OAS is international help, right? We have to tell people that they are the ones to help us. America cannot come into our country. This is a sovereign country. Yes, they're looking at us, but those advisories they're giving is for the citizens. They're warning them, don't go certain parts of Trinidad, or I should say Port of Spain City. We're hot, we're cool, they tell them. That's the most they could do. They cannot come in. We cannot hope and pray and okay, they're talking about the situation here. It's not like that. You report to the Organization of Americas, the presidents in the different countries in South Central America, and corrupt CARICOM, they will sit down and discuss. And they will come to some conclusion. If they sanction the government, they sanction members in the government. Even the police, they could sanction the commissioner. And this is how you could put a spoke in these people wheel. We can't just hope they will step in. The organization don't work like that either. We have to make reports. We have to protest. We, the opposition, have to do that. Things getting rough with this property tax they want to put on people to rob them again. As I told you all last night, the more they pauperize the citizens of this country, where they open the oil producing companies, and we see that we're not getting any foreign exchange. This is another thing. And the weak ones, they're just running all over the region. Places they're going is like Guyana, Barbados, because they could run. But how much of us could run? In time to come, people won't even be able to do little repairs on the home. The roof, when it's leaking, if they have to buy about 10 sheets of galvanized, pay the transport and pay the labor, that will be hard. In about 10 to 15 years, right? And these people continue in power because that is where we will end up with them, you know. This mafia ain't easy, you know. And this mafia that we hear is saying that is a criminal enter. It's not them alone. Don't call Rowley name alone in this. Don't call our government alone in this. It's other governments in the region. Names I don't want to mention all over again. Right? Is governments in this region. He is in a mafia. He tell all of that plain. All they think is joke he making. He just feels the thing. So when Rowley telling all of the truth, right? All they think is joke the man making. But he tell you, it's a mafia. It's a brotherhood. And that is the name of the mafia. Is the brotherhood. That is what they call themselves. Okay? So we have to protest and protest and protest non-stop to get it straight. Simple like that. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Well, she has made, and of course has cast, of course, let's say some cast some serious seeds in the fertile ground that was laid by the 2 or 3 callers before. But of course, she was, of course, broad in terms of and short on the nitty-gritty in a particular sense. Because, of course, if you are contacting, for example, the United States or some international agencies such as the UN or the OAS or the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights, or indeed the International Criminal Court in The Hague, you will have to produce your evidence. You cannot just do that just like that. So I want to make it clear, because I know that she did not focus there, and one may go away with the impression that you simply somehow just make a telephone call, as the case may be. We know. And I'll give you an example. When the when the UNC under Kamla Prasad Bisesa had instituted the state of emergency in 2011, but it started off as a limited state of emergency. I have the documents here and the response from the International Criminal Court, because I thought that since communities such as Lavatil and so on was targeted for this limited state of emergency, and if it's a limited state of is a state of emergency, and people's rights would have been suspended. Not that it was not done before, but in a different circumstance altogether that could not have questioned the intent or the conduct of the police and the army to ride roughshod in poor community. You see, because when Patrick Manning instituted a limited state of emergency around the home of Ocasio, remember that? Who was the Speaker of the House, who he didn't want to come in because she weaponized, according to them, the Speaker chair against the government because of what they did to her brother, Ralph Maraj. Remember that? So she was prohibited from leaving, and therefore the vice speaker, the deputy speaker, took the chair, and the PNA was able to get their way. So I'm saying that when the state of emergency was called by Kamla Prasad Bisesa in 2011, I was extremely concerned that the police and the army will now descend on communities such as Beta, Mansilat, and so on, and advantage the guilty, the not guilty, the innocent, etc., and they could do nothing about it, even if they speak, knowing, of course, the police service as we know them to be. We have too many examples of course, rogue police elements, and, of course, the killing of innocent citizens. So much so that even Amnesty International, an organization to which I belong, have expressed a concern, apart from, of course, the United States State Department that monitors matters of this nature, including, of course, the trafficking of humans. But the point I am making, I wrote to the International Criminal Court on the matter, saying that this is discrimination. This is, of course, an attempt, of course, to put a section of the community into lockdown, can't move, whilst other parts of the country go free and without, of course, any concern for abuse by the police. I have the response there from the International Criminal Court, so I did that. The point I am making is that you're not going to do it in a vacuum. You have to, of course, have your case. So I made the case, newspapers, and everything else, and then, of course, it was presented. So just in case people have the view that you could just talk from here to the Americans, no, you have to build a case. And that is what it is all about for the next 12 months. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night. It appears that we have lost that one. Caller, please call back. My apology. I took a bit. I wanted to conclude that particular point. That, of course, you must have persons with the experience. I take, for instance, once again, I have another one where, of course, Garcia, he used his office in the Ministry of Housing in HGC to evict a fellow called Norshad Ali from Mango Rose around Piccadilly Street, I think in about 2005, thereabout. And I encouraged and went with him to, of course, file a complaint in the magistrate court. Okay, we will take this call, and then, of course, I will go back to that. Just to demonstrate that it is what is possible with international attention. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Good night, Lennox.
Good night.
Good night to everybody on the live.
Yes, good night.
Lennox, I just want to say, I know it's not PNM people listen on the live, right? But I just want to say,
Yes.
even though you know people who still like the PNM, and they say they rather Rowley to leave. You know, if anybody has come in PNM, all of them is the same, right? Because all of them in that parliament pushing the same head under the PNM government, right? So even if Rowley leave and our next dons come, it's the same dons just like before, like Rowley and the rest of them. So I hope people don't get tired because Rowley leave. Or let me say if God happen to take Rowley tomorrow and they put our next dum-dum now to control the PNM.
Yeah.
If these dumbass people go and still vote back PNM, because far as I see, all of them pushing the same head. Lennox,
Yes. No, you're
all of
right.
them
You're
pushing
right.
the same, all of them pushing the same head. So I just hope to God these people and say, well, Rowley go on and we have a new government, a new PNM government, and they won't do with that. Because you know, that people really stupid.
Yes.
They're really stupid. Okay, Lennox, good night and
Yes, indeed. And that's a very salient point. I'll complete my second example to show international intervention that, of course, will make these people cringe. And to the extent to which that will attract the concerns of Rowley and the PNM is clear. They want to, of course, safeguard what is left of their very waning and depleting, of course, international reputation. And you see that in spite of, and I want people to observe, in spite of Rowley and they're saying that they are handsy-pansying with the Americans, and the Americans give them, of course, a reprieve, and they get a license, of course, to go into the waters or the domain or the marine area of Venezuela to, of course, exploit the gas. Notice, and in spite of the apparent cordiality and the graciousness of the ambassador, you notice that they upgraded their advisories against Trinidad and Tobago. Don't go to St. Augustine. Before it was don't go to Nelson Street and don't go around the Savannah. Now it's not to go St. Augustine. So that's to tell you, these people don't make joke. It's about their interests. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Yes, good night once again. It's me here again, Lennox.
Yes, go ahead.
Of course, we have to have a case or two, okay? I didn't say, we must go like that. We must have a case, but look at this case.
I know you know that, but I was explaining to people out there who may have a different impression that it just simply draw attention like how we're doing it tonight and that's it. No, it's much more than that. Go ahead. I didn't criticize you or anything like that. I just wanted to clear the air with people who may not understand as we know it.
Okay, because I didn't want to go into all of that, but we have many things we could put before the Organization of Americas.
Of course.
First one is the breaking of the democracy with those independent institutions where he mash up, he dismantle these institutions.
Yes.
The organization do not tolerate states who in that organization who do not follow the democracy, right? Who do not have democracy. And if democracy break here, this is one thing, and this is the most important part in all what going on, not our domestic affairs, but we talking democracy, right? So what I am saying is, once we do that, we will have a great chance and it will lead to other things. We could complain for other things. If you don't have democracy, you can't protest. Look, when we asked to have a protest or so, the police not granting permission. Huh? Where's that? That ain't right. You tear gas down people. We have rights to walk. We have rights to march. Whenever we ask, is a problem. Look at what happened to Victor Roberts at one time when he wanted to go in Woodford Square. All of that is no freedom of speech, expression, nothing. Right? So all these things we could complain about. Another thing we could complain about is that the robbing at the foreign exchange and all of that. The people not getting anything and you want to tax out the people? Hmm? Nah, man. It's a terrible state we're in right now. People can't get jobs. People leaving the country. They favoring other people. Hmm? All kind of crime going on, guns coming in, normal people getting killed, and not a statement these people coming out with when these horrible crimes take place. I'm talking about Ethelbert Hines. He responsible for these kind of thing, and this Duncy head commissioner that they have. She need to be sanctioned. She needs to be sanctioned because the US talk to them about the crime. They tell them to sharpen up on the human trafficking. And whenever we sit down as citizens and don't reach out, it's as though we accept it. We who oppose these things are the ones to reach out. We can't sit down on this. We expect the PNM supporters to reach out on this. I don't know. You answer my question for me, please. Good
Well, of
night.
course, the question is a loaded one. The answer is built in, and therefore is a rhetorical one. You don't expect those sycophants and those who are comfortable with the state of affairs, having regard, of course, to the level of larceny, the level of tyranny, the level of deception, the level of infiltration, to, of course, for one reason, to deplete our resources and put it in the hands of that 1%er, including, of course, those members of government, as well as to stay in government. Those are the two major objective of this administration. Our job, of course, is to say that our democracy cannot be conditioned on those kinds of conduct, because this will defy the meaning of democracy, which is, of course, government by the people, of the people, and for the people. And that is what it is all about. Of course, the caller that talked about the continuation of the same, yes, is a cultural thing with the PNM, and I agree with that caller that anybody goes there will, of course, continue with that because it's a culture, and therefore we must relegate the PNM to the dustbin of political history in this country. Our President, good night, welcome.
No, good night. And Burton was saying people were going to get a 4% for Christmas. Anybody get a 4%?
Well, I see that teachers are complaining. He himself went and said that 35,000 teachers, I believe, or public servants, and that 30,000 would have gotten it. So he has admitted that all of them have not gotten their back pay, and therefore their increase in emoluments, and that is another failure. Yeah.
Lennox, the reason why I asked, because on TikTok today, some people saying they get them one.
Yes,
and
some
people saying that it's only who know it's only who know them, who know this one and who know that one on the PN, and only them who get a 4%.
That is the problem. That is the
problem.
And
another person saying, but she don't know them, and she will, I'm not to no party and I get my 4%. She gets she money.
Well,
so that's why I had to ask, because I don't know what is really going on.
You have some hang-ons.
But Lennox, and the talk is only who agree. It's only who agree will get that money, right?
Yeah.
And then the talk is only who agree.
The labor representative
of
the particular category of workers, they alone will get it. So the police agreed, the teachers agreed, but the OWTU and others have not agreed, including, of course, the Cement and Waterfront Trade Union and the PSA. PSA has not agreed either, a major player. And therefore, only the teachers, the police, I think the fire service has agreed. I don't think that the prison service has, because remember, it's public servants, so people who are paid by the government. If this is all about, it has nothing to do with the private sector. The private sector got the increase, of course, in minimum wage by $2.50 up to like 2015 cents. So is so the hourly rated for across the board is $20.60. But somebody brought the point that European workers get about $500 a fortnight, and whether or not the government itself is breaching, of course, the hourly paid rate that, of course, was implemented, and therefore is it a criminal enterprise continuation? Is it that the PNM and the government disrespects or is not subjected to the rules that they themselves created, because these are workers that they can exploit? That's another issue, and I hope that people connected to CPEP and URP and so on will call in to, of course, give us an update, if not here, at least on the ground report as well. All right. So, but let me just complete that other example of international attention. So, Noel Garcia, the man who is now in charge of HGC and, of course, Judicot for Dr. Rowley, his bagman, and I could say that without fear of contradiction because I know them, and experience is the best teacher. So I can tell you about my approach to the International Criminal Court. I could bring, of course, the response. They wrote me back. And then, of course, later down the road, Kamala and they had a national state of emergency. And that is when, of course, I withdrew my complaint to the International Criminal Court, quite in, of course, The Hague. Right? So let's not say that it cannot happen. And don't believe that for one moment that you do not have the power and the authority, once you have, of course, the capacity and the willingness, of course, to find out how it is done. So, of course, in this particular case, Noel Garcia caused the man to be evicted from his apartment on Piccadilly Street in, of course, Mango Rose. So I went with him to the court, the magistrate court in Port of Spain, and, of course, under a particular piece of legislation, we brought action against Garcia himself for larceny and for trespassing. Let me repeat. We brought an action, and therefore a summons was issued for Noel Garcia. Yeah, all the big talk he playing now. For larceny and, of course, trespassing on the man's property in his apartment. And what transpired was that after 3 hearings in the court, yes, it went to court, the police was outside HGC waiting on Garcia to come and receive his summons. He never attended court. But when we went to court on I think the 3rd or 4th occasion, the magistrate was totally flummoxed. He was confused. He was, of course, in a state of discombobulation. He was in a state, of course, of enigma. Find it strange. He said, I don't understand that, but the DPP, it wasn't the present DPP, it was his predecessor, said, because they are responsible for all criminal matters, and that was a criminal private matter. He said, the first time I see the DPP enter into a private criminal matter brought by an ordinary citizen against Noel Garcia, a PNM operative, a PNM sycophant, a PNM, not an underling, but someone who, of course, Rowley clearly sees as a significant. Well, the magistrate said that the DPP sent to say to withdraw the matter. And then, of course, I took the matter to the the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights on that matter. So while, of course, they believe that they could have their way here in Trinidad, when you go there, there are problems, serious problems. Of course, time passed and I did not, of course, pursue it at that level. But the point I'm making is that you have the right to, as an individual, incensed of the stench of corruption, nepotism, cronyism, abuse of office, misbehavior in public office, and the undermining of our democracy, you can write it to them as well. Whether it's the United Nations Human Rights Bureau, whether it be, of course, as I said, the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights, whether it be the OAS, whether it be ECLAC, the Economic Commission for Latin America, whether it be, of course, the OECD, the organization of OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation, based, of course, in France. And we have several other human rights organizations across the globe, including institutions that the EBC is a member of. We write to them as well, indicating the conduct of the EBC. Of course, it's a lot of work from my perspective because I am pursuing all of them simultaneously. It will be a long, hot 12 months of 2024 moving into 2025. And nothing could cause the irateness, the irascibility, and the apoplectic nature of Rowley. Because remember when Kamala did it, he was annoyed, saying that the Americans, when of course, when Farley talked about it, he was annoyed because he knows that his legacy, as he's attempting to falsify and falsify even his biography from Mason Hall to Whitehall when Whitehall wasn't existing. But this miscreant, this of course malevolent individual, and the entire cabinet that he has constructed and put together must face the wrath of the people. And it is said that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And in circumstances where your backs are against the wall, the people have no choice. Whether you are lowercase animal or you are a human being, you must plunge forward, particularly when the perpetrators are human beings just as yourself, but abusing officers simply because they hold the office and therefore are extremely indurate, extremely malicious, extremely engaging in vexatious conduct because you are resisting them. And I take Mr. St. Augustine's advice that people like me will be targeted and, of course, also prepared for any eventuality as well. So I just want to say that all of what was said tonight so far by contributors are significant. The caller that is concerned about, of course, whether or not the PNM is so enveloped in their ways because it's a culture, it's a tradition. I agree with you that what is required is to, of course, jettisoning and getting rid of, annihilating the PNM and relegating it to the dustbin of political history. That's the only show. But to try to put another person there, maybe Penelope Beckles as a woman, etc., so as to generate sympathy, because that is what they do. They change government. It was Manning who told us it was a new PNM. New PNM. It was more like wolf in sheep clothing. And that is what you're going to get. You have to be a fool to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. And it is said as well that those who don't learn from the history, and history, of course, is what transpired in the past. That's all it is. You have to be a damn fool to repeat it, especially if it is negative. And we know Rowley and Dave for who they are. The last 8 years has been pain, ache, agony, pressure, and of course, mismanagement and self-serving policies and programs to augment their pockets and their friends and family, and use the various institutions to facilitate that. And therefore, we have a duty as a population to resist that as we look towards 2025, if not before, because there are signs that he will call an early election. I am certain that the UNC is ready. Don't frighten about that. You see, because institutions such as the Ground Report and the Corridor Transformation and Roberts and Victor Roberts and all of the others have been making and indicating and sending the salvos that the UNC has no choice but to be in perpetual readiness for any eventuality. That is the power of course, programs such as this. Because you see, if we had to ask the TV6, the TTT, or even CNC3 to, of course, give us time to talk in the way that we are talking, different from what Rowley and his minions are spewing, and different from what the official media apparatus is projecting. If we had to ask them, we would get no time, only on the basis of cost. They wouldn't even take our money to do it. But thank God for, of course, social media and its democratization qualities. Let me repeat that. Thank God for social media and its democratization qualities, so that you are getting a next side and the side, because if it wasn't so, Rowley and them would have been sending pre-action protocol letters. We would have been marching to the court every minute. You just have to think, and you will come to the inescapable conclusion that these fellas are engaged in what we are saying because they simply cannot defend it in court. And that is why they will pretend that it doesn't happen and, of course, ignore. But we know the fact that we can say that every night, call Rowley a rapist and a pedophile, for example, every night. And I say so with a high degree of conformity that he is a rapist and a pedophile. I sent him, of course, a pre-action protocol letter outlining the same thing. That is what, 3 months now? If you believe that he will not get the wrath and the heat of 2024, he has another thing coming. I say no more on those scores. So I think I have touched every concern that every single caller so far has, of course, presented, factual as they are, but there are other elements to, and besides, of course, marching up and down the place, that these fellas will have no choice but to fear. I remember very distinctly when, of course, I sent Patrick Manning, a letter saying that, listen, disband the Ministry of Youth because it isn't serving any purpose. Then, because, of course, they were basing it on equitable distribution. And I say, you distribute the resources available to the young people based on needs and not on equity. You can't have 5 regions and you have $1 million and you split it, you divide it by, of course, 5, that million, and give everybody an equal share. There are places that need more than other places, and I drew the example with respect, of course, to Port of Spain, and the fact that if you take young people or anybody at all, and they want, of course, and they don't have gas for their stove, and they bubble up a pot, a three stone pot on the street or in the yard, they could burn down a whole block. But of course, in a place like Guayak Goyari or Mayaro, where you have loads of open space and sea sand, etc., and the availability of food, they could go and catch a fish or go in the forest and get the latest fruit that is in season and bubble up a pot, and they are comfortable. You cannot do that with, of course, those persons who are existing in an urban environment as opposed to a rural environment in Trinidad and Tobago. Even back then, I made the point. And Rowley, was upset. He was, not Rowley, Manning was upset that I made such a claim. And of course, I made it on newspapers. It made the newspapers, etc. And he was saying, he felt that somehow he was impotent, and that, of course, that generated a kind of national discussion on the subject. But today we are engaged. It's as if it's deja vu, as I said. It's as if, of course, it has come full circle. While, of course, Rowley and they continue, of course, to be jaundiced, to be cocky-eyed, to be blindsided. But, of course, as it is said, in blind man country, one-eyed man is king. And Rowley believes he's a king with all the blind people that are following, of course, the PNM. Let's get to some element, because we already reached 9:41. Wow. But, of course, I want to, of course, as I said, I had a plethora, huge amount, of course, of videos that I wanted to play, and I will get them played. But once you are making your comments, and it has to be commented upon as we engage in discussion, then that becomes priority as opposed to what I would have prepared. But I want to make one point tonight as far as the video is concerned. It's that those characters, they are unsavory characters. They are miscreants of the highest degree. They are insincere to the core. They are rapscallions and ne'er-do-wells of an indescript nature, because their intention was always to deceive. And tonight, I am going to prove that from a Innsbruck perspective, because you see, when they got out of office in 2000 and in 1995, when they were out of office, remember that period? When they were out of office, when Pandey took over. If you listen to what Imbert had to say why he was in opposition, because he had won his seat, you will understand how dangerous these people are and how they can metamorphosize, how they could change their position as circumstances change in their favor. And they would say things only to bring things in their favor, including, of course, engage in lies and deception, as we have seen them over the last 8 years. It was as if it going out of style, lying, deceiving, whether it be, of course, as you know, whether it's on the property tax or whether it is on, of course, the subsidies, whether, of course, it's telling us that he never, of course, interfered with the Police Service Commission. And Gary Griffith would have told us in non-certain terms that they gave him $45 million in order to run down and to, of course, be a pest, to try to convict UNC activists and former ministers. And he resisted that. So I want to tell everybody, including Mr. St. Augustine, Mr. Tonopuna, sorry, that is not to look at the texture of hair and color of skin, but is to look at the circumstances under which that person was appointed, whether they are Chinese, whether they are Syrian, whether they are Indian, whether they are Africans, and understand and evaluate the sinister intent and bring it to the fore. And that is where we must be going. Because to put it in an ethnic or a color of skin perspective, we would have been not only be myopic ourselves, but we would have lost an opportunity to really evaluate the situation and to continue to build the argument and increase the cog of deficiency, the cog of insincerity, the cog of incompetence and impotence that has typified the PNM, particularly under Rowley. You will be doing a disservice if you nestled your argument as to who rather than for what purpose such a person was placed in such a position to advance the nefarious, evil, wicked, diabolical acts of this criminal enterprise called the PNM, led by a total and absolute mafia father, called, of course, Keith Christopher Rowley, in this mafia enterprise and, of course, criminal enterprise that he has, of course, carved by his pernicious intent and purpose. Let's go to, of course, Imsbert, when he was out of government and say he go change. And then look at him in Parliament recently when he tells people, he talks about, of course, people's bowels. He talked about diarrhea, gastrointestinal disorder or distress. That individual who clearly is a victim of titoria. Titoria is when, of course, fat has difficulty in digesting. And all your lingo in the rear, all your defecating is floaters. Floaters. I wish I was in Parliament when he spoke that hogwash. There are others, of course. Yeah. Titoria. Teatorrhea. Titoria. I say that both Imbert and the entire government bench has been subjected to that nastiness, stink, and that level of inability to digest fat that turned out to be fraught, and of course has an unsinkability when it is deposited, of course, in the toilet bowl. All of them. Let's go straight, of course, to Imsbert and hear him as he, of course, recompense, as he issued a public apology. But when he goes into government, a different man. Before we go, of course, let's go straight to the lines. You know, we give you the preference. Pleasant good night. Welcome.
A pleasant good night to you, Lennox. A pleasant good night to you and to some of those on the chat.
Yes.
Lennox, I must congratulate you for the stand that you took tonight. I've been listening to not only you, but I've also been fighting off some snakes on the chat. But I'll deal with them after.
Yes.
Lennox, I totally agree with what you said about not going down no race road. And don't look at the texture people here or the skin or the ethnicity. Look at the job that they are doing.
That's right.
And it's about time somebody address that issue. Because you see, by ignoring the elephant in the room, they will keep repeating that. And I heard somebody say they're looking at the ethnicity of the people who are going to pay the property tax. I hope they do a poll and they come back with accurate report. Right? Lennox, I want to say something here tonight. I am no hypocrite. Everybody know I'm no hypocrite. And I am no snake eater. Because a snake is an underhanded person. I am not one. I've always been open. And I always say, my personality is who I am. And my attitude is the rectum I'm dealing with at the moment. And I also want to say, to those I offended in 2023, work on yourself so I don't have to criticize you in 2024. I'm a supporter of Kamala Persad-Bissessar. Who want to call me a snake, go right ahead. It takes one to know one. As I said, I'm no hypocrite. And who want to come here and sing Basti Pandey praises as though he did no wrong, or they go right ahead. But to be dishonest and say that Pandey Kamala thief Pandey party and Pandey never tell her anything. He never wanted back to her. That's a downright lie. Kamala didn't steal any party. There was an internal, and he got a good cut as 13-1. He was shellacked. But he couldn't stand his losses. And for a big man, instead of staying there and helping build back the UNC, he decided to pull away and bad talk this lady. And talking about she thief the internals. You were in charge of the internals, but how can Kamala steal it? But you see, we have a lot of mischief makers who doing it for their own benefits. And I want to tell Barry Budram here tonight, you say that I am fighting for my political life for box train contracts. What are you fighting for? You're not studying country. If you feel I fighting for box train contracts, that's up to you. I am fighting for a better country for me, my children, and my grand. And yes, Mark Smith, I am old, and I am proud to be old. But I can assure you, you might never reach my age. And with my intelligence, because I'm not a babbling pagan. I come here with facts, not fiction, and no racism. And anything I say can be backed up. So who feel that they want to attack me tonight? Bring it on. But you know what is funny, Lennox? They don't see or hear when people coming into my inbox and cussing me up. They don't seem to see or hear when people put in a post that they're looking for Santa Cruz to cuss up she MC. They don't see that. But when Santa Cruz is responding, everybody sees it. But you know why? Because I'm not hiding. And who don't? Too bad. I'm not Dale Carnegie. I didn't come here to win friends and influence people. And not liking me is not paying my bills. And I want to let them know that the gateway to heaven doesn't pass through their yard. And let them go ahead and judge me. I say what I say. And who want to be a hypocrite about Bastille Pandey, let them go right ahead. Yes, he did good as a prime minister. He did a lot of good. We're not going to take that away from him. But he was also a bitter old man. And we saw him hugging up Rowley and them. Not one day, Lennox. In the 8 years, you hear that man say, Rowley is doing wrong. And he opened his mouth and he said Rowley did something wrong. Rowley called him a drunk. Rowley called him a drunk. So who want to kill me? Fed, go right ahead. A lot of people pelting daggers at me. But you know what? No weapons formed against me is going to prosper. Lennox, and I will end as I started. I must congratulate you tonight for the stand that you took. Don't go down the race road. Don't go down it. Because it benefits no one. And according to my good friend from Tobago, Houston, Georgie, a racist is morally and spiritually bankrupt. They have nothing to gain. And pushing this race head is sickening. It's really, really sickening. Lennox, thanks a lot for hearing my 2 cents, and take care and have a good night.
Thank you very much. Of course, I'm coming from Tobago. If you have taken that cliche, that quote, that maxim from Tobago, I think it is significant because remember, they were regaled and they were literally bombarded with, of course, the Calcutta ship. Remember that? But they have grown and they have matured to the degree where Rowley is now an alien in his own birthplace, Tobago. They have jettisoned him for the nonsense that he has been, of course, engaged in. And you are quite right. We must look at the the circumstances that cause that person to be appointed in a particular position under the PNM and know that there is something sinister and understand the cynicism that exists therein, and therefore inimical to the interests of the people, and therefore would of course undermine our democracy. And so from that perspective, and not from the perspective of color of skin, texture of hair, and ethnicity. No, you're selling yourself short. You are being myopic. And you are not, of course, advancing the cosmopolitan nature that we have to endure, whether we like it or not. And, of course, have achieved so much as a consequence of the melting pot that is called the Trinidad and the Tobago. That being as it may, let's go straight, of course, to the deception that was from origin in the case of course, Imbert on this occasion, when, of course, he was out of government, displaced by the very Basio Pandey. And I have a lot of things to talk about Basio Pandey. Nobody can love Pandey more than me. I can assure you of that. But let me go straight to the line. Boy, oh boy, I get difficulty to get to this video, but we will get there. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Good night, Lennox, calling from Tobago East.
Yes, good night to you, Tobago.
Well, condolences to Mr. Pandey family and to Mr. Orchard Charles family. Them fellas and them was real stalwarts, right?
Yes.
Regardless of what they do one thing, I still have to say I am very happy for what he did, because in his time he did some good work. He made some mistakes, yes. I mean, everybody make mistakes, but at the end of the day, the fella did a good job.
Yes.
Yeah, he did a good job. He did a good job by the time he was there to bring back this country from $9 a barrel. I mean, man, Pandey is a great one. Just like how Kamala is a great woman, right? I don't care what nobody want to say about them. They had a falling out, but I will tell you something, Kamala always stand by Pandey. Regardless of what Pandey do,
she was always
Kamala never.
Gracious,
Kamala is a decent woman. I support a woman 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I support you 100%. But I want to say something.
Go ahead.
You see in Tobago, in next election coming here, Rowley have a standard chance to be across here. The people who supporting Rowley right now, Rowley in office, is in Trinidad. Rowley know he don't have Tobago and back in. He know that. And you see the last thing when he do there, when he win the last THA election, when he take all them cut programs in Tobago and carry them back to Trinidad.
Yeah, boy.
But Tobago had
they are in
the back of their mind frame, you know.
Yeah.
They must make sure he pay for that, you know. He can't do like what we do in Lavantil and all them, you know, and Point 14 and all them, you know. He not doing with that, you know, and get away with it, you know. He go to have to pay dearly for that. Take what I'm telling you. So be going and have that in the back of the mind, you know. You see every time they pass and they see that plane feeling good and all about, sit down there and they can't go nowhere. Watch and Rowley, see what go happen. PNM and see the daylight. See them two girls in Tobago, yeah? They could be looking for a job from all now, because they know after the next election, they will not be here. I could cut my word on that one day. Because
I appreciate
that.
So
it's a total waste of time to Tobago, you know?
Yeah. Different
yeah, them two girls and them is a total waste of time. Them only working for a salary. They don't care nothing where going on Tobago. And we see that.
The warming seat. The warming bench as
the warming seat.
Yeah, they're just
and on the chat, Barry and them that be talking so much as shit is a shame, you know, boy.
Yeah.
Oh God. All so what a slap in the back of your head, you know. Something wrong with all you know. Barry, there's something wrong with all you know. Something serious. And let me tell you something. The fellas that I'm in areas, when you make a certain time, they can't come out the house, you know. They can't come out the house, you know, they're dead. They can't come out the house. Them living in some kind of crab hole that they can't peep out, you know. This is a foolishness that be talking time and time again, boy. All you carry the kid all yourself, boy. All you ain't seen this man, don't care about all you. I got to be going and we don't business about a man there. All you feel he care about anybody. Everything get to the 1%, and all you see that all still talking dotishness. Oh God. Time and time again, all the same thing, and all still talking bullshit all the time. All you get real. Get real is not about race. It's only race with all your boy. It's only race. Everything about all about is race. All you have to stop that. Trinidad and Tobago ain't going nowhere with Rowley and them. Rowley and them was never leaders, you know, and they will never ever be leaders. None of them will sit down there, no leaders, and they will never ever be leaders. The biggest mistake Trinidad and Tobago do is to put a clique that they have run in this country here. Them is a clique, you know.
Yeah,
and Rowley so bold-faced. He tell you all what he doing, you know.
Mafia syndicate, yeah.
But he tell him, my man tell he's a mafia, and these fellas are still running down there behind this man. I don't understand what's going on. It really like a clique. It really like a mafia in truth. Because like these fellas and like they mind something wrong with all you know. Something really wrong with all Tobago and take 21 years to learn a lesson, you know, and they learn it, you know. All they take all their time and get this government out of office. Take all their time in Trinidad and get this government out of office, you know. Because all you wouldn't be better off no time in the future, you know, with this government here. Every time they put PNM in power, there's always come back and shoot themselves in the foot. Every time. And the same thing is corruption.
Because of greed.
You
Yeah,
hear?
greed.
Lennox,
Avarice, yes.
a happy new year to you and everybody.
Thank you.
And listen, Miss Sandra Cruz, good night, darling. Good night. Let you call you all kind of old people. I am old man too. You could call me old man too. I tell him one time. But I'll pepper him. Let him come around me.
You have some
because I live in no crab hole, you know.
Yeah, with that.
I am not living in no crab hole. Why I don't look out, you know? I have a proper place, you know. Let them try and fix themselves, and suffer cussing people. Take all their time down there. Right. Have a good night.
Yes, indeed. At one time, he was so animated and so emotive that at one time I thought he was saying, instead of race, I thought he was saying rape. But of course, if he said rape, it would not have been, of course, a slip of the tongue or a Freudian slip.
Yeah, man. I mean, they don't get really not about race.
I thought it was off. All right. Yes, my friend.
No. I'm not on the race thing because I come from all different kind of race. Me mix up, me a Kalalu.
Yeah.
Right? So have a good night.
Yeah, same to you, my friend. Same to you, my friend. Yes, indeed. As I was saying, I thought he was so emotive. I thought he was saying rape as well, but that would have been an appropriate term as well, having regard to the fact that they raped the treasury, they raped the cabinet, they rape, of course, the resources of the country, the physical resources, they rape, of course, the sea bridge, they rape and they deceived us with respect to sandals, they rape, of course, the Baranara promenade, not promenade, but the Baranara Stadium. And of course, they continue, of course, to do all kinds of evil that is, of course, is stereotypical. And we have another one, oh boy, like I can't play that thing tonight, boy, but we have another person who is on the private phone, and I would take that call as well. Professor, good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hello. What's going on, boy?
Well, of course, we're nearing the end, and I got a chance to play my substantive video, but go ahead.
I ain't take you long.
All right.
Did you confirm what I tell you about last night?
Yes. Yes. Caller, hold on. I have another person, so just hold on there. I'll tell you. Go ahead.
I work for free if you have going on your airport. I work for free.
Okay.
Just like how you say you work for camera for free, but you them have to pay you.
Yeah. Well, they have to pay big money if I had to work for them. The shorter, the task. I want to start from scratch, you see, because nobody there is capable of doing anything to build and to positively, of course, impact on Trinidad and Tobago. So because of that, I'll have to charge them. They will have to pay for that, even though, of course, it's our money. Yeah, it's too invaluable. All right.
And you see that WhatsApp that was flashing with Mr. Pandey talking to a group of people? If I let you left hand corner was about Mitchum, you know.
Oh, I see, okay.
About Mitchum, box office movie star.
Right, okay.
They came down here to film a movie called Fire Down Below,
Fire Down Below, yeah, I remember that one, yes.
Right? And Mitchum, they said, I say you want to see all the rock decks.
All right.
This is how I get to my youth camping branch,
All right.
Me and the batch all of them now.
Okay.
And I hear that fellas when he say, take off your shirts. And when you see their body with chop and take his shirt and put them back on.
All right.
I want to see the fellas who give all of that.
All right. Well, we have to be short because I have somebody waiting.
Yeah. All right, boy, Lennox, tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll talk on the ground report. All right. Pleasant good night, caller. Sorry about that to have you waiting, but somebody was on the what I consider to be the hand phone. Good night. Have a wonderful one.
Good night, Mr. Lennox. Good night, Mr. Lennox again. That's
yes,
okay. I will give way to my good friend who loved Rowley so good. He loved him with passion and love.
That's another one. That's another one. That's not the man who loved Rowley sarcastically.
That's not Mr.
No,
that's not Mr.
Not Tagarigua. Not Tagarigua.
Oh, he sounds like Mr. Tagarigua. Right. I know who is. Right.
Yeah, the other one.
Right.
Yes. Both of them from Tobago.
Okay, that is okay.
Coincidentally.
Sorry, sir, for continue. But I just wanted to ask Mr. Lennox on the topic.
Yes.
Right? We're talking about ethnicity. Do you remember a gentleman by the name, here you go there, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Morgan Job?
Yeah.
Right. Mr. Morgan Job had told this country and Tobago, unless as a people we identify the problem that is before us, then we will know what is our duty for ourselves.
Right.
And when you put race in anything you do, will obstruct you from accomplishing your goals. Mr. Morgan Job tell the African people that being black is very good and you must be proud. But at the same time, try and educate yourself. And it's the same thing he told the East Indian diaspora. And when the PNM under Dr. Eric William with Trevor Butler in Caroni, right in the ready hospital bill, the Children's Hospital in Cuba, in the barracks, when the East Indian hide Trevor Butler in the barracks, right? Because it's the same PNM, African base after African man. So when they use race to divide Suraj Kapildeo from joining and getting the momentum from the African base to move forward, then will the division come. And today to see that when Manning did say he's a born-again Christian and he run away with the treasury and his son is the Minister of Finance in the ministry, then you see Rowley come and say, while I was in opposition, I reflect on how to serve the people and the vulnerable. Talk good with dirty attitude. You ever hear about the blackhead chicken? The feathers look nice, but look at the foot. A peacock. What a beautiful feathers. And look at the foot.
Peacock. Plenty glare, but no depth. no sincerity. Go ahead.
Right.
Yes.
So when we as a people will know what is before us in this country, all those people that is here talking about on the chat and cussing this one and cussing that one, is they are the slave catchers, Mr. Lennox. You understand actually what is the difference between the catcher and the seller?
Yes, you did.
Right?
That's
so I didn't want to
ever.
Yeah. So you see, the worst thing is we the people amongst ourselves. Kunta Kinte tried to free his own people. And a man named Fiddler went by the door and because he had some crumbs on the ground when the slave master trade for him. Master, he going and run away with the people. He going and break free.
And
so you see,
they betray.
I will class.
And they savagely, of course, subject them to all kinds of sinful acts because of that betrayal. Yeah.
Right. And look today in modern time that you can see a spaceship going to the moon. And the PNM led by Kid Rowley. And those people on the chat, what I heard them talk about, they are no different. Because you know why? In Uganda, Africa continent, one part is so filthy rich, while others walk on dirt and drink animal urine for water. So let we be our brothers keepers and find out when the oil price drop, what is our debt to GDP, and if Haiti will be better than us. So this is what we have to focus. No matter we put a Chinese or whatever, but together and love and unity will get us to the promised land. Have a nice night.
Yes, man. Of course, those Judases, 30 pieces of silver, as the Tobago caller would have, of course, ascribed to the parliamentary representative. Let's go straight, of course, to Imbert when he was out of government, when Pandey got into government in 1995. Listen to him.
He's not always been the most pleasant cabinet minister, but Diego Martin Northeast MP called him but wants to change his image. The defeat at the polls almost 3 weeks ago have put things into perspective for the former works minister. He now has more time for his wife and son.
I went to a movie for the first time in about 5 years. I went and saw Iron Man 2 with my son, a week ago. These are the things I could not do. I just had no time to do that.
Imbert, who is a contractor and design engineer, is not on the hunt for a job right away, but there are things he still wants to accomplish in his spare time. He also wants to give his academic career a boost.
That I always wanted to do a PhD, and I was encouraged to do it. I didn't have the time. I'm certainly going to do it now. So I'm going to be doing a PhD in construction law during this period in opposition.
He even jokes that he has repairs to do on his home that are a decade overdue. His constituency has also been neglected and he plans to fix that. Imbert was part of the former PNM government for the past 9 years. He admits it has aged him somewhat. He says being in politics and serving as a government minister tends to consume you, and adjusting to a seat on the opposition bench in the parliament will take a lot of getting used to.
And I'm not happy about it, but I'm coming to terms with it. I've been here before, but it was so long ago I forgot.
His time in opposition, he says, will be used to rebrand his image and attitude to the media and to the population. After all, second to former Prime Minister Patrick Manning, he was seen as one of the most arrogant ministers of government.
That was an error on my part. I
was
always more interested in the work.
Look at him today.
So, working so hard, I was working 16, 18 hours a day, and 7 days a week. So that here am I working, my tail off, if you allow me to use that language. And you're asking me questions. And I am saying, but why are you asking me these questions? Can't you see how hard I'm working?
Imbert is still adjusting to the free time he now has on his hands, but he told us he is enjoying not getting phone calls at 2 in the morning or 3,000 letters of complaints on his desk. For CNC3, I'm Kamal Georges.
I wonder if that is a premonition that I'm playing now when they are out of office after 2025 maximum. I wonder. Don't be surprised. And they'll come back with that kind of hogwash. Where is the PhD that he talked about when they were in opposition? After Basio Pandey, of course, the late Basio Pandey now took over government in 1995. But let us look at what transpired only about last year, December, when he was in Parliament. And you determine whether he has changed. That is the level of deception and deceit that we have. Like a tiger can't change its stripe, and like a leopard can't change its spots. But that is Rowley and the PNM and Imbert. Let's hear him now in recent times. Today, with his filth mouth. Filth mouth. Tutu mouth. Listen to him.
Might have a next budget to come in. That might kill them. Because if this is causing so much pain and diarrhea, if this is causing so much pain and gastrointestinal distress, what's going to happen in the next budget? What? As I said,
cesspool talk. Listen to him again. And I want to tell you that a tiger cannot change its stripe, nor a leopard its spots.
He's not always been the most pleasant cabinet minister, but Diego Martin Northeast MP called him but wants to change his image. The defeat at the polls almost 3 weeks ago have put things into perspective for the former works minister. He now has more time for his wife and son.
I went to a movie for the first time in about 5 years. I went and saw Iron Man 2 with my son, a week athese are the things I could not do. I just had no time to do that.
Imbert, who is a contractor and design engineer, is not on the hunt for a job right away, but there are things he still wants to accomplish in his spare time. He also wants to give his academic career a boost.
That I always wanted to do a PhD, and I was encouraged to do it. I didn't have the time. I'm certainly going to do it now. So I'm going to be doing a PhD in construction law during this period in opposition.
He even jokes that he has repairs to do on his home that are a decade overdue. His constituency has also been neglected and he plans to fix that. Imbut was part of the former PNM government for the past 9 years. He admits it has aged him somewhat. He says being in politics and serving as a government minister tends to consume you, and adjusting to a seat on the opposition bench in the parliament will take a lot of getting used to.
And I'm not happy about it, but I'm coming to terms with it. I've been here before, but it was so long ago I forgot.
His time in opposition, he says, will be used to rebrand his image and attitude to the media and to the population. After all, second to former Prime Minister Patrick Manning, he was seen as one of the most arrogant ministers of government.
That was an error on my part. I again, was always more interested in the work. So, you know, working so hard, I was working 16, 18 hours a day, you know, so, and 7 days a week. So that here am I working, you know, my tail off, if you allow me to use that language. And you're asking me questions. And I am saying, but why are you asking me these questions? Can't you see how hard I'm working?
Imbut is still adjusting to the free time he now has on his hands, but he told us he is enjoying not getting phone calls at 2 in the morning or 3,000 letters of complaints on his desk. For CNC3, I'm Kamal Georges.
A leopard cannot change its spots, nor a tiger its stripes. Listen to him.
That might kill them, because if this is causing so much pain,
arrogance,
and
contempt,
diarrhea, if this is causing so much pain, and gastrointestinal
and to humiliate,
distress,
unbecoming of a parliamentarian.
What's going to happen in the next budget?
Experience.
What? As I said,
so, yes, people, of course, we have come, of course, to the end of tonight's exercise. Of course, the time is upon us, 17 minutes past. We didn't start late. If we did, I'm sure you got more than compensated for the time lost. So, of course, we will continue, of course. So don't forget tomorrow morning, the ground report, Andy, Mikey, and myself. And, of course, we will be back here tomorrow night as we, of course, continue to focus on what is required in order, of course, to treat with the Trinidad and Tobago's business as we inexorably address the question of our democracy. Don't forget, of course, you can, of course, as well draw international attention to the stress and the evil and the degradation of our democracy by a group of individuals who believe that somehow they can manipulate and undermine and render null and void and of no effect the efficiency of independent institutions, including the rule of law. They can breach and not pay the price or the consequences. Jail and, of course, the civil action to recoup or to get back those monies and resources that they would have stolen by mismanagement and by misbehavior in public.
Defend them with alacrity while they making a mockery of democracy.
Yes, indeed. So people, of course. Yes, people, of course, the time has come. We have to go. But, of course, have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. And don't forget, 2017 or before, 2025 or before, whichever, we will be ready to jettison the PNM out of office because this is what we must do because of the disappointment. Your vote must decide.
Our destiny, your vote will decide what you want to be. Your vote can foretell our country's fate. Move and use it well before it's too late. If it is that who you're voting, fail beyond a doubt. When you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is they prove it to be only full amount. When you're voting, vote them out. put them out of power. To be deterrent, let's put our country together again.
Finance, big shot, friends and family. So the whole of the country wants you now to stop lying. Cause the next election is a new party we voting. Like you forget your people once you in power and you're moving evil, you had the whole place sour. And now that we discover is 2% that they offer. This is one little thing that I want all you to remember. We fed up all your lives. You could do much better. Gas prices going up too high. The cost of living is getting harder. Guys, let me put in my copyright claim. I don't own the rights of the music played, neither the melody. I'm a madman. Okay.
Danny Popo here. All you come out and vote. It's UNC, we bring it back. So there we go. Rowley had to go, boy. Rowley had to go. Rowley had to go, boy. Rowley had to go. We bringing back cabal to save Tobago. Rowley had to go, boy. That man has to go. We bringing back cabal to save Tobago. Rowley had to go, boy. The man has to go.
I want to invoke the doctor and then write him a letter. I want to ask him a question, if he knew what was going on. The other day I was passing, I hear people complaining. He is the man with the answer, but he's quite over yonder. They say, stay in the Palisade. Stay in the Palisade.
This is Caribbean Vibes.
Stay in the Palisade. And the biting hard. Stay in the Palisade. I'm sorry for Trinidad.
With me hand, I find some of them they living too long, and every 5 years is the same old song. Some of them dead, just shame to lie down, so I prepare for them a burial ground. Rowley, my first grave for he, with joy in my heart, put him down with glee. All of them useless politician, only making up numbers in my island.
Rowley, a dog. Low high the crime rate is in the country now, boy. Forest. Rowley, a dog. Low high the crime rate is in the country now, boy. Rowley, a dog. Low high the crime rate is in the country now, boy. Rowley, a dog. Low high the crime rate is in the country now, boy. Forest, come down, come down. Imboot, come down, come down. UNC, in tongue, in tongue, in tongue, in tongue, in tongue. I don't want to leave you on top that horse. I need you to come down here for me now. You're claiming E&M them is boss, but look how high the crime rate is now. PNM feel the bright. They can win election tonight. Come down from there, Rowley. Come down from there, Rowley. Pick me to with that vibe. Champa, go to them, they not nice. Come down from there, Rowley. Come down from there. I just want to warn you before the mixing would concern you. They went like keto and one voodoo for the people and them to vote you. On the IG post you look nice. A million followers, a million likes.